The Sigma male, strength in solitude and uncompromising boundaries. True strength is not always measured by dominance or conquest, sometimes, it lies in the quiet resolve to protect one's own peace. This philosophy defines the Sigma male, a rare archetype of masculinity that operates outside traditional social hierarchies. While alpha males thrive in the spotlight, commanding attention and authority, and beta males seek harmony within group dynamics, the Sigma male charts a different course. He is neither leader nor follower, but a self-sufficient force who moves through life with deliberate independence. His power comes from within, rooted in a deep understanding of his values, boundaries, and the unshakable clarity of what he will, and will not, tolerate. Sigma males are often enigmatic figures, revealing only what they choose to share and guarding their inner world with vigilance. They prize autonomy above validation, and their loyalty is earned, never demanded. Unlike those who rely on external approval, Sigmas draw strength from their own principles, making them immune to societal pressure or manipulation. Yet, this very independence means they have little patience for behaviors that disrupt their equilibrium. While they are often calm and composed, certain actions will provoke an immediate withdrawal, whether through silent detachment or an outright departure. Their boundaries are non-negotiable, and once crossed, the door closes without ceremony. In this video, we'll explore the 8 behaviors that Sigma males refuse to endure. These are not mere pet peeves, but fundamental violations of their core values, actions that reveal ignorance, disrespect, or emotional drain. For the Sigma male, tolerance is not infinite. It is a privilege reserved for those who meet his standards of authenticity, accountability, and mutual respect. Understanding these deal-breakers offers insight into the Sigma mindset, a blend of quiet resilience, razor-sharp discernment, and an unwavering commitment to self-preservation. Number 1. Broken promises with no accountability. For the Sigma male, a promise isn't just words, it's a personal covenant that reflects one's integrity. Their aversion to unreliable individuals goes beyond mere frustration. It touches on something far more profound, a violation of their core values. In the Sigma's world, where independence and self-reliance reign supreme, one's word is the foundation upon which all relationships are built. What makes this behavior particularly egregious in the Sigma's eyes is the underlying disrespect it demonstrates. When someone repeatedly breaks commitments without taking responsibility, they're essentially declaring that their time and priorities matter more than the Sigma's. This perceived arrogance triggers the Sigma's deeply rooted aversion to entitlement and flakiness. Sigma males possess an almost forensic ability to detect patterns of unreliability. They notice the small things, the consistently late arrivals, the forgotten follow-ups, the half-hearted participation. These aren't seen as isolated incidents, but as data points in a larger narrative about someone's character. Where others might make excuses, they're just forgetful, or they're busy, the Sigma male sees a fundamental lack of respect and self-awareness. Their response to such behavior is characteristically decisive but understated. There are no dramatic confrontations or ultimatums, just a gradual but irreversible withdrawal of trust and investment. The Sigma male will systematically downgrade the offender's status in their life, transitioning them from trusted confidant to casual acquaintance to ultimately background noise. This process happens with surgical precision, often before the other person even realizes what's occurring. The Sigma's stance on accountability isn't about perfection, it's about ownership. They understand that mistakes happen and circumstances change. What they demand is the basic courtesy of communication and acknowledgement when commitments can't be met. Without this minimal demonstration of respect, the Sigma male sees no reason to continue investing in the relationship. In their value system, trust is hard-earned but easily lost, and once gone, it's rarely regained. Number 2. Constant complaining without action. The Sigma male's intolerance for chronic complainers stems from a deeply ingrained philosophy of personal agency and solution-oriented thinking. These self-reliant individuals view life through a lens of pragmatism. Problems exist to be solved, not merely lamented. When confronted with perpetual complainers, they perceive not just laziness, but a fundamental character flaw that reveals an unwillingness to take responsibility for one's own existence. What makes this behavior particularly grating for Sigma males is the energy dynamics involved. They recognize that complaining serves as an emotional vampire, draining the vitality from everyone subjected to it. While they possess remarkable patience for genuine hardship, they have zero tolerance for what they view as manufactured helplessness, the tendency to exaggerate trivial inconveniences into insurmountable obstacles while refusing to lift a finger toward resolution. Their response to chronic complainers follows a predictable pattern: initial polite listening, followed by direct but measured advice, culminating in complete disengagement if no action is taken. This isn't cruelty, it's self-preservation. Sigma males guard their mental space fiercely, and they refuse to become enablers of self-destructive behavior patterns. They understand that by continually entertaining complaints without progress, they'd be complicit in the complainer's stagnation. The Sigma male's approach reflects a broader life philosophy: adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. Their respect must be earned through demonstrated resilience, not through the theatrical performance of victimhood. In their worldview, either you control your circumstances, or your circumstances control you, and they have no interest in those who choose the latter path. Number 3. People who disrespect service workers. Sigma males judge character not by how someone treats their equals or superiors, but by how they interact with those who can offer them nothing, a principle that makes their intolerance for service worker disrespect particularly acute. They view condescension toward waitstaff, retail employees, or any service professionals as a glaring red flag that reveals profound personal deficiencies. Where others might dismiss such behavior as a momentary lapse, Sigmas recognize it as a window into someone's true nature, one that's often carefully hidden in more calculated social situations. This disdain stems from the Sigma's fundamental understanding of power dynamics. They perceive service workers as being in a vulnerable position, paid to tolerate poor behavior while maintaining professionalism. When someone takes advantage of this dynamic to boost their own ego, it registers to the Sigma as a particularly cowardly form of bullying. The Sigma male's reaction to witnessing such behavior is immediate and visceral. Their opinion of the offender plummets, often beyond redemption. They see no distinction between someone who's rude to a waiter because they're stressed and someone who's polite to their boss out of self-interest. Both demonstrate the same lack of core integrity. For Sigmas, how someone treats service staff answers two critical questions. First, how do they behave when they believe there are no consequences? Second, what do they consider an acceptable target for their frustrations? Their conclusion is invariably harsh. People who mistreat service workers are fundamentally insecure individuals who compensate for their own inadequacies by asserting dominance over those least able to defend themselves. This assessment leads to one of the Sigma's trademark behaviors, quietly but permanently downgrading their opinion of an interaction with the offender, often without explanation. The message is clear: if you need to demean service workers to feel important, you're not someone the Sigma male needs in his life. Number 4. Constant one-sided conversations. For the Sigma male, meaningful interaction is a carefully balanced equation of give and take, a reciprocal exchange where both parties contribute equally to the dialogue. They find it profoundly draining to engage with individuals who dominate conversations with endless monologues about their own lives, opinions, and problems while showing zero curiosity about others. These self-absorbed talkers operate under an unspoken assumption that their thoughts are inherently more valuable, their experiences more noteworthy, and their time more precious than anyone else's in the room. Sigma males possess an acute sensitivity to these unbalanced dynamics. They can detect within minutes whether someone is genuinely interested in mutual connection or simply using them as a sounding board. When they realize they're dealing with the latter, their response is characteristically decisive. They don't argue for airtime or make passive-aggressive remarks. Instead, they employ subtle but effective disengagement tactics, giving increasingly brief responses, gradually reducing eye contact, and eventually finding a natural exit point from the conversation. Their retreat isn't born of shyness, but of a conscious refusal to participate in interactions that provide no intellectual or emotional nourishment. What makes this behavior particularly intolerable to Sigmas is the underlying disrespect it represents. By monopolizing conversations, these individuals demonstrate they view others not as equals, but as supporting characters in their personal drama. For a personality type that values authenticity and depth, such superficial engagement is worse than no engagement at all. Sigma males would rather embrace solitude than suffer through conversations where they're treated as mere props, silent witnesses to someone else's relentless self-narration. Number 5. Pathological liars and chronic exaggeration. Sigma males operate with a truth detection radar that borders on the supernatural. They can spot a fabricated story or inflated accomplishment within seconds, not through any mystical power, but through acute observation of inconsistencies, body language tells, and the subtle insecurity that always accompanies deception. What begins as mild skepticism toward a suspicious claim quickly hardens into permanent distrust when patterns emerge. The occasional white lie might be forgivable, but habitual truth-bending represents something far more sinister to the Sigma, a fundamental corruption of reality itself. The Sigma's disgust with chronic liars stems from multiple layers of understanding. First, they recognize that compulsive exaggeration is ultimately about insecurity. The liar's need to manufacture a more impressive version of themselves reveals a fragile ego. Second, they understand that habitual lying creates an unstable foundation for any relationship. If basic facts can't be trusted, how could deeper truths ever be shared? Finally, and most damningly, they view such behavior as insulting to their intelligence. When someone spins elaborate tales in their presence, the Sigma interprets it as the liar believing them foolish enough to be duped. Their response is characteristically decisive yet understated. They won't confront the liar or demand explanations. Doing so would require engaging with the very falsehoods they disdain. Instead, they begin a gradual process of detachment, first by verifying claims independently, then by reducing shared information, ultimately reaching a point where the liar's words are mentally catalogued as fiction. The relationship isn't abruptly ended so much as it is starved of oxygen. The Sigma simply stops feeding it with attention or belief. In the Sigma's worldview, time is too precious to waste on those who trade in illusions, and trust, once broken in this fundamental way, can never be fully repaired. Number 6. Invalidation of their personal preferences. To the Sigma male, personal preferences represent more than mere tastes. They are extensions of identity, carefully curated through introspection and lived experience. When someone dismisses their unconventional music choices, niche hobbies, or unpopular opinions as weird or wrong, it strikes at the core of their selfhood. Sigma males don't collect obscure vinyl records, practice forgotten martial arts, or develop controversial philosophical views for attention. They do so because these pursuits resonate with their authentic selves on a profound level. The act of invalidating these choices isn't seen as simple disagreement, but as an assault on their right to self-definition. What makes this behavior particularly offensive to Sigmas is the implication behind it, that conformity is virtuous and deviation requires justification. They detect in such judgments a small-mindedness that prioritizes social approval over genuine self-expression. While others might feel compelled to defend their preferences, Sigma males refuse to engage in such debates. Their silence shouldn't be mistaken for concession. It's a deliberate choice to withhold parts of themselves from those incapable of appreciating them. They'll simply reclassify the offender as someone unworthy of accessing their inner world, relegating future interactions to surface-level pleasantries. This reaction stems from the Sigma's fundamental life philosophy: individuality is sacred, and those who can't respect differences in taste certainly won't respect differences in values. They view people who mock unconventional interests as intellectually lazy, individuals who substitute genuine curiosity with cheap social posturing. For the Sigma male, walking away isn't an act of defeat, but a dignified refusal to entertain the opinions of those whose imaginations can't stretch beyond mainstream approval. Number 7. Pushing them to lead without understanding their nature. Sigma males radiate a quiet competence that often draws others to them like moths to a flame, sparking a common but fundamental misunderstanding of their nature. Observers see their strategic thinking, emotional composure, and ability to solve complex problems independently, and assume these qualities naturally translate into traditional leadership roles. What these well-intentioned but misguided admirers fail to grasp is that the Sigma's strength lies precisely in their independence. Their power comes from operating outside conventional hierarchies, not ascending them. When pressured to assume leadership positions they never sought, Sigma males experience a profound sense of violation. It's not that they lack capability; they could excel in such roles if they chose to. Rather, it's the misunderstanding of their core identity that stings. To force a Sigma into leadership is to misunderstand what makes them exceptional: their ability to influence through example rather than authority, to shape outcomes through quiet competence rather than loud proclamations, to maintain their values without the compromises leadership often demands. The Sigma's resistance to forced leadership stems from several deeply held principles. First, they view most organizational hierarchies as inherently corrupting, believing power often distorts judgment. Second, they cherish their autonomy above all else, the freedom to operate by their own standards without being accountable to committees or stakeholders. Finally, they possess an almost allergic reaction to the performative aspects of leadership: the expected pep talks, the artificial enthusiasm, the constant visibility. When cornered into leadership against their will, the Sigma male's response follows a predictable pattern: initial resistance, followed by minimalist compliance if absolutely necessary, culminating in strategic withdrawal at the earliest opportunity. They won't sabotage the position, but they'll make it abundantly clear through their demeanor that this isn't where they belong. Their preferred method of leadership, quiet mentorship, leading by example, empowering others without seeking credit, requires no title or corner office. To force them into conventional leadership is to misunderstand their very essence, and the Sigma male would rather walk away than sacrifice their authentic self on the altar of others' expectations. Number 8. Playful insults disguised as jokes. The Sigma male possesses a razor-sharp ability to detect the subtle undercurrents of human interaction, particularly when it comes to humor laced with malice. What others might dismiss as harmless teasing or office banter, the Sigma recognizes as something far more insidious, a cowardly form of aggression disguised as camaraderie. These backhanded compliments, sarcastic remarks, and, just joking, put-downs represent what the Sigma male considers among the lowest forms of communication, the inability to express discontent honestly, instead hiding behind the thin veil of humor to avoid accountability. For the Sigma, true humor serves one of two purposes: it either builds bridges between people through shared laughter, or it offers insightful social commentary. When humor instead becomes a weapon, a way to chip away at someone's confidence while maintaining plausible deniability, it crosses an unforgivable line. The Sigma notices how certain individuals consistently target the same people with their jokes, how the laughter often sounds forced, and how the recipient's smile never reaches their eyes. More tellingly, they observe how these verbal snipers never seem to be on the receiving end of such humor themselves. The Sigma's response to this behavior is characteristically uncompromising. They won't engage in tit-for-tat exchanges or call out the behavior publicly. Both approaches would require them to descend to the offender's level. Instead, they employ what might be called social distancing, gradually but permanently reducing interaction to the bare minimum necessary. In professional settings, they'll keep exchanges strictly task-oriented. In social circles, they'll become increasingly absent. The message is clear: if you need to disguise hostility as humor, you're not someone the Sigma needs in their orbit. They reserve their energy for relationships built on mutual respect, not psychological warfare masquerading as jest. Conclusion: the Sigma male's quiet revolution, a conclusion on uncompromising boundaries. The Sigma male's approach to interpersonal relationships represents a quiet revolution against the noise and pretense of modern social dynamics. His zero-tolerance policy for certain behaviors isn't born of arrogance or aggression, but of a profound understanding that every interaction either nourishes or depletes his carefully cultivated equilibrium. Like a master strategist, he knows that not every battle deserves his energy. The true power lies in choosing which engagements are worthy of his attention, and which should be met with deliberate disengagement. What appears to outsiders as aloofness is actually a sophisticated defense mechanism honed through experience. The Sigma male recognizes that the 8 behaviors we've examined, from chronic complaining to disguised insults, are more than mere annoyances. They're symptoms of deeper character flaws that inevitably lead to toxicity. His refusal to tolerate them isn't petty, but preventative medicine for his mental space. While others might endure these behaviors for social convenience or fear of confrontation, the Sigma male understands that temporary discomfort is preferable to long-term deterioration of his peace. His detachment strategy is both art and science. There are no dramatic exits or self-righteous speeches, just a gradual but irreversible withdrawal that leaves little room for negotiation. This isn't avoidance, but evolution. By removing himself from these draining interactions, he creates space for relationships that align with his values. The Sigma male would rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies when it comes to human connections. A mirror for the modern individual. If these boundaries resonate with you, it suggests you may operate with similar principles, whether you identify as Sigma or simply as someone who values authenticity over social convenience. In a world that often rewards superficial charm over substance, the Sigma's approach offers an alternative blueprint: that it's not only acceptable but necessary to be selective about who gains access to your time and energy. This philosophy extends beyond personal relationships into how one navigates professional environments, social circles, and even digital interactions. The Sigma male's playbook teaches us that silence can be more powerful than speech. Not every provocation deserves a response. Solitude is preferable to poor company. Quality of relationships trumps quantity. Observation precedes engagement. People reveal themselves through patterns, not promises. The Sigma's invitation. This isn't just about understanding Sigma males, it's an invitation to examine your own boundaries. Where have you been tolerating what you should have walked away from? What relationships drain more than they give? The Sigma's greatest lesson isn't in his aloneness, but in his selective connection. He reminds us that we teach others how to treat us by what we're willing to accept. In embracing these principles, we don't become antisocial, but anti-falsehood. We cultivate relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. And perhaps most importantly, we preserve the clarity and peace required to pursue what truly matters, not the approval of the crowd, but the integrity of our own path. The Sigma male's world is quiet by design, but his silence speaks volumes about what it means to live authentically in an age of performance. The question isn't whether you agree with his methods, but what parts of his philosophy might help you better protect your own peace in a noisy world. Thank you for watching.